What is up, Jabronis? JJ back here talking a little college basketball. Today is Saturday, January 29th. Willie, good to see you checking in with the necessary comment intro. I think that's kind of been a lost thing here on these shows, right? I mean, nobody really does it anymore. I mean, Willie, it's good to see that an OG like yourself is coming in, dropping the non-flaccid size, the social number. And obviously, you're a long time guy, so we know your name. Sometimes people have the YouTube accounts where, they're called Jack Me Off or something weird where they don't have their actual name. So Willie Parker, non-flaccid size, social security number. But to your point, Willie, we have that information documented. So, there's no reason, you should have to feel the need to keep doing it over and over again. But again, the newbies aren't doing it, and it's creating a bit of an issue with these shows because, there used to be a time where you used to get 5 or 10 people right from the bat, boom, 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 my non-flaccid size, my social number. We were able to archive all that information, never going to use it for anything, of course, because I'm not here to steal anybody's private information, but, we archive it as needed. So this show this week is going to start at 1:00. I'll go through a few games. Typically, I'll give you 3 plays or 3 bets for the games a week. And then I typically bet 5 to 6 total games of college basketball. So the rest will be for the Run Pure Bets crew. But these shows were good last year. We'll do them again this year. Normally it'll start at 11. Normally it'll start. I don't know if I'm fucking spitting or what it is. The camera's getting all wacky. So normally it'll be at 11, or 11:30 in preparation for the 12 o'clock games. So I can give you, if there's a 12 o'clock game, I can give it in the video. But much like the college football videos I used to do. Today in general was a little delayed with the little bit of snow we've had, or as some are referring to it as a bomb cyclone. I mean, LOL. So, about 5 or 6 inches out there. Took me a little bit to shovel. What I love? I love, going outside and me and the wife are negotiating how we're going to attack the snow, right? Her version of attacking I can't even say it with a straight face. I mean, her version of attacking the snow is the 2 front steps in front of the house. And the rest, I guess, the remainder, if you will, falls on my end of things. And then the best is, so I'll shovel it. I'll get both cars out of the driveway, back up the driveway. And then, and then she'll come out and say, the job's not finished or the job's not complete because there's little patches of snow in places. I just don't understand. If you're going to shovel snow, you get a decent amount of snow, 5 or 6 plus inches. The goal is to just get yourself out of the driveway and make sure nobody slips and falls and breaks their ass on your walking routes. The driveway does not need to be perfect, So, if she wants the driveway to look like, Mona Lisa, that's on her. That's not on me. She went out there and sweeped and finished the rest of the work that apparently I did not finish. You hate to see it. So, that's where we're at right now. It's 1 p.m., 1:05 for those people that need to be exactly precise, right? I know what you might be thinking, right? Oh, well, I'm not really sure if you shoveled or not, right? You want to see if I shoveled? Look at these bad boys. I'm not talking about the arms. Look at the pits. Look at this. I ain't even flexing. Well, now I'm flexing. So if you're like, oh, well, I'm not really sure, if you shoveled or not, there was your answer. And you might have been like, what are you, some kind of dirtbag? You don't even change your shirt after you go shoveling? No. I mean, I didn't realize, I'm doing video for the Academy Awards here. No need. I'll shower after this show. Maybe not. We'll see. LOL. All right. So let's talk some college basketball. And again, with the fucking spitting. You know what? Let me take a little electrolytes. See this? Little Gatorade, waking the senses a bit. Also, I watched the movie last night, the Sean Payton movie. What was it called? Back Home or Home something. Now I don't even remember. Sean Payton. Home Team. I'll be honest. I know I made that little troll post on Twitter. I actually thought it wasn't bad. It had some decent comedy parts in it. I'm not the biggest Kevin James fan, but I thought he did all right. No Ebert and Roper, but overall, I did enjoy the movie. I thought overall there was some decent comedy parts, and I thought the message was decent. I find it ironic though how, we're making a movie about how Sean Payton rekindled his relationship with his son. Like, are we just forgetting like the amount of bounties he was putting on guys like to get them hurt in the NFL? And I'm sure it's complicated. Like, I'm sure it's not just him. I know Greg Williams was in the mix as well, but I find it so interesting that that's the movie, we're picking to do, to kind of praise how Sean Payton, rekindled his fire with his son, all because he was putting out bounties on players to get them hurt and got suspended from the NFL. So I found that overall interesting, but the movie wasn't bad. So if you have an hour and a half, definitely wasn't a bad movie by any means. Okay, so moving on. So some college games today. So a few I like. So actually a few tip at 3:00. I'll start with Georgia State and Louisiana Monroe. I like this full game over at 141.5. I know you or we could look. So let me just type that in before I forget. JJ's best bet. Georgia Southern. If I knew how to spell Southern. Monroe over 141.5. So the cap here, right? I look at this. First of all, I love these types of spots. And I'll be more descriptive. When two teams that play at above average pace meet up or go up against a few snails within conference or even out of conference, doesn't really matter, where they kind of get thrown out of their own rhythm. I really love the first time that the team starts to play another fast-paced team. So here, these two teams do like to run. I mean, they're not like some of the fastest tempo teams in the country, but they do like to run. And I saw Georgia State's offense kind of get itself back on track against Louisiana, a team that likes to run. And here's the thing. Monroe does like to run, and at times they're even faster paced than Georgia State can be. But, man, they've played a few snails recently. I mean, you look at their box scores. If you're a box score hunter, if you will, I mean, look, 45 points, 56, 65, 62 in overtime, 56. This team's not scoring. But they will have some opportunities to score today. Georgia State will certainly speed this game up, certainly play at above average tempo. They will try to force turnovers. This team does press throughout a game. But again, teams that press, unless you have like superior athletes, you're almost always vulnerable to good guard play, getting the ball up the court. Monroe's got some decent guards. They should be able to break this press multiple times. They don't turn the ball over a crazy amount. They're not like super efficient, but they don't turn the ball over a crazy amount. Overall, I think this game is going to have a lot of easy baskets in it. And I think the pace is going to be there. I mean, there's some things that for why this total is 141 versus like 147 or 148. But I will say this, KenPom, I think, has this line around here. So KenPom's got this line 145. To me, I think you're getting a value number here from two teams that haven't been scoring all that well recently and have kind of slowed down their pace because of some of their opponents. This is the type of like a break loose type of game on my end. Like I said, a game where both teams will feel comfortable running the ball up and down the court. Should lead to a lot of easy baskets. And again, Georgia. So the thing with this game in particular, both these teams cannot guard the three ball at all. So I would expect a lot of decent open looks. Now both these teams do struggle to make 3-pointers, but you're talking two of like the worst defending teams in the country behind the arc. I'd expect a lot of decent looks from behind the arc to get up there today. And again, a lot of easy baskets in transition. And again, with a total like this, you could even start slow, still get there. You can get there with a foul game late. Nonetheless, love the spot. So over 141.5. Did I type Southern? Oh, well. Yes, it's Georgia State, Kenny, correct. So Georgia State, and it's so funny, right? Because I have all the Georgia State information in front of me. Meanwhile, I call them Georgia Southern. You hate to see it. But yes, so I mean, I could type it for the people that need the autocorrect, Georgia State. But yes, 100%. What's up, Kyle? And Kenny, thanks for that correction there. All right, so, and by the way, guys, I'm only going to have 3 games here. I'm not just going to like randomly talk on games. If you guys have a game you want me to talk about or give you my numbers on, I can definitely do that. But I'm only going to give you the games I actually bet. So Western Kentucky, Middle Tennessee. Now, this number is not nearly as good as it was a few hours ago. This number is now 6. So we'll call this for this show a half unit play at 6. But I had this line 7, 4.5, 4 was a great spot earlier. 6 is what's there now. And this would still be, I would still play it at 6. I just wouldn't go as heavy. So hold on a second. WKU -6. Hold on 1 second. POQ -6 versus Middle Tennessee. 0.5 U. Now, so why so why Western Kentucky in this spot? Now, Western Kentucky has been struggling quite a bit recently, which is interesting, right? Because you kind of this team had quite a season last year and even the year before, led by their really good senior. I forgot his name. But this year's been a little different for them, right? And maybe some individuals were a little too high on this team coming into the year. But this team's now dropped 4 straight, but they've dropped games to formidable opponents, right? I mean, they lose at home to North Texas, good team. They lose on the road to Florida Atlantic, not a bad team. They lose on the road to FIU, which would go down as one of their worst losses of the season. Close game, though. And they lose at home to UAB, again, another tough team. So now they get at home Middle Tennessee in the middle of this stretch of 4 straight losses. And Middle Tennessee, on their side of things, is actually playing really good basketball. Them have won 4 straight. And I don't want to say I explicitly target these spots, but I love these spots where, if you handicap a game 2 weeks prior, the line would just be so different, right? So this line, if this game was played 2 weeks ago, if this game was played on January 13th, right? This line would be, WKU, I would have had it lined at 8.5. But because WKU has played quite a few sinkers recently, especially the FIU game, and Middle Tennessee has elevated their level of play because of a soft schedule. See, that's the interesting thing with college basketball, right? Schedule is so long, right? With 32, 33, 31, 32 games throughout the regular season. I guess you can include, conference championships in there as well, where you're just going to have stretches of play where you're playing a soft schedule and then you just elevate to a tougher schedule. It's just kind of how the season goes, right? You look at who Middle Tennessee's played recently. They've had things soft. Now, Florida Atlantic, they played at home, which was different than how Western Kentucky, who had to go on the road to play them. They play FIU at home. They scored 50 points versus FIU, which is almost comical. In a win. Southern Miss at home and then away at Marshall. I consider the Marshall win a pretty decent one, all things considered, but they barely won. Now Western Kentucky gets their little median type game, their game where you call this the quote unquote get right spot, right? This game should play extremely fast paced. These teams love to run the ball up and down the court. The thing that you kind of have to love about Western Kentucky is they do not put people on the free throw line at all. I know Middle Tennessee draws fouls, but you look at some of the advanced numbers from KenPom's site, this team does not foul opponents. And this team shoots threes at an above average clip. I just think overall, you look at this team's advanced numbers, this is a very good team. That's 10-10 because of a little bit of scheduling issues. And they've had a tougher schedule than Middle Tennessee. Overall, I just think this is a typical spot where a team like Western Kentucky really gets their things right, and this should result in a double-digit win for them. I really liked 4.5. 6 is still a decent play for me. Again, I capped this. So for me, I want to be clear. I love to handicap backwards 2 weeks, but you still have to be cognizant of what actually the data is in front of you, right? You can't just ignore it, right? You can't just say, oh, well, yeah, sure, Middle Tennessee lost 4 games in a row. Won 4 games in a row, and Western Kentucky lost 4 games in a row. You can't just ignore the data, right? I just think at times we overdo it with that data in front of us in terms of Western Kentucky now, sucks, and Middle Tennessee is now really good, where that's just not the case. So for me, I only slide the line a point over the last 4 games. I only downgrade Western Kentucky 0.5 point, upgrade Middle Tennessee 0.5 point. So for me, 7.5, the line opens 4, hit it 4.5. It's now 6. I don't know how much it's going to move before game time, which is only in 2 hours. But for me, there's still value in it. Not as much. I do typically like the 3 to 4 point value myself. But this is a game I bet, and I don't want to just give you two games total, right? So half a unit, though, at 6. And I think it's a really good spot, a really good get-right spot for Western Kentucky. And what you will see with me, which might be different than most people you're accustomed to listening to, if you're new, if you're not, this probably isn't any new thing for you. I am not a big player guy. You're not going to hear me say, well, this guy's just going to be unstoppable in the matchup. Don't get me wrong. You can break down player matchups from daily fantasy sports perspectives. And you can make, certain matchups where you say this is exploitable, but then you start really getting in the weeds. If you're using players to handicap how games are going to get played, you're less of a handicapper and more of a coach, or trying to be at that point. I just look at the numbers. Like I look at how teams look, how games play, how pace projects, and you go from there. At the end of the day, your guys are either going to make shots for you or miss them, and that's going to likely result in the handicap, right? But over time, things will go your way or they won't based on those little bit of edges that you create for yourself. But I never understand, like, if you're handicapping college basketball and you're like, yeah, the handicap for me is, player A, who is a lottery pick, is going to be unstoppable in this spot, and that's why you have to bet them. That never made any sense to me. So yeah, you're not going to hear me mention player names, player dick sizes. Not to say players don't matter in college; they definitely matter. But the matchups, I think sometimes people get a little too into the weeds in regards to betting. Not so much for daily fantasy sports, but in regards to betting, people get too much into the weeds on how much that relates to a handicap. Players, key players being out, of course, matters or would matter to a line. But as far as how it relates to the game plan, that I'm not on board with. Okay, so last but not least, so Vanderbilt plays Georgia today. Georgia off a big win, I believe, if I remember correctly. They just beat Bama. I think. See my notes. Yeah, so they just beat Bama after a streak of a bunch of losing a bunch of games. So Vanderbilt crawls up and down the floor. They're led by Scottie Pippen's kid, and they. I actually think this team's fun to watch. Like, I know that some people don't like this team. And I know some people who come over from college football are like, this is Vanderbilt and they're terrible. And they're not a very good team by any means. But they've elevated, over recent years a bit. Again, Pippen's helped make that transition. He's a really good player. But overall, as far as this game, Georgia gives up points to everybody. So, and Georgia elevates pace. I really like the spot for Vanderbilt to go over their team total at 74.5. So, for me, this is a spot where I think Georgia speeds this game up because here's the thing. Georgia beat Alabama. They shot really well. Bama just didn't have a good shooting game. And they only won by 6 at home. Now they travel on the road to play a team like Vanderbilt, who's going to opt to slow things down and try to be more efficient in the half court. And look, Georgia just is not a very good defense at all. This is one of the worst Georgia teams in recent memory. And yeah, they squeezed the win versus Bama, and maybe it's one of those wins for them where they ride momentum into this Vanderbilt game. But for me, you got a team in Vanderbilt who isn't scoring that well. They didn't do well against South Carolina, Florida, Tennessee. They did beat Georgia 4 games ago by 7, where they did not go over that number on the road. They didn't even shoot that well in that game. I mean, maybe like sub 50%. And, you might hear that and you might be like, oh, well, 50% is pretty good. But Georgia lets everybody shoot 50% against them. So I wouldn't consider that like an incredible feat by any means. Vanderbilt moves the ball around really well. And Georgia is very susceptible to good ball movement in the half court. And again, Georgia has also been a bit lazy in their getting back on defense. Again, this team plays very fast. And they are also very vulnerable to easy baskets getting let up on the other end. And also the other thing is like Georgia relies on getting to the free throw line, and Vanderbilt might put them there. That's fine. But also keep in mind that stops the game, right? It slows the game down. Ultimately, Georgia, if they do anything above average, it's add extra possessions to basketball games. And those extra possessions should result in Vanderbilt helping us get over this number. It's a decent sized number for a team like Vanderbilt. But again, you put into perspective the situation and the defense that Georgia plays and the offensive efficiency that can look good against inferior opponents in Vanderbilt. I just really like the spot. I think they get over this number. But again, this is another number that is built upon recent gameplay, right? So, you look at Vanderbilt, right? Vanderbilt has not gone over this number in like 6 games, including a game versus Georgia, which was on the road. But they've played a lot of tough teams in this stretch. South Carolina just has their number, it appears. Kentucky obviously is the top 10 team, and Florida's that game I don't even know how to describe. That was just a very poor shooting game from Vanderbilt. But either way, this is a good get right spot at home. They have Kentucky next. It's definitely your quote unquote must win spot for Vanderbilt. They should win, but I think that overall they get their points. If Georgia shoots well and this game completely runs out, yeah, I mean it's very possible that Vanderbilt loses. I really like the spot for Vanderbilt to get over their number. So yeah, Vanderbilt team total over 74.5. You could probably get it at 73.5 and just pay more vig, but I didn't do that. I prefer less vig on the 1 point number. Over 74.5. I think I got that minus 110. Yeah, I got that at 110. So versus Georgia. Okay, so those are the 3 games I have for tonight. It's a few 3 o'clocks, and I think the Vanderbilt game's at 6. So if you have any questions on some games, I'll hang around for the 10-15 minutes and answer them. Otherwise, I'm free to go. If you don't want to handcuff me, we could talk on some of my personal life issues if you'd like. I have a lot of them. LOL. But no, seriously, guys, thanks you for hanging out. Let's get some of these bets home today. Run Pure Bets crew. Let's get some of these games we got going on right now home as well. And look, guys, as always, gamble responsibly, stay safe. Tomorrow, I guess I could be back with a show tomorrow. Maybe maybe I could do some like late player props. Maybe if you guys are into it, where I could just talk on all the late props that get added. But needless to say, God's helpers, the best bets are typed in they're all typed in the chat. But needless to say, wish you guys all the best of luck with all your bets. And then if I don't see you tomorrow for NFL, of course, I wish you the best of luck with all of that. DFS, betting, the whole nines. But as always, gamble responsibly, stay safe, run pure, and good luck, fellas or ladies, everybody. I'll talk.